What's up, fellas? In the second video of the day, we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Earlier today, we talked about Washington, a team that is going to be pushing for the postseason. And now we're talking about Minnesota, a team that could end up with the worst record in the entire league this season. You might be thinking, why are we talking about Minnesota and it's not an off-season thing? It's talking about how they've been playing lately. Well, throw the record out the window for this team. There are some positive signs with the Timberwolves in terms of how they're playing lately, and that is what we're going to be talking about in the second video of the day. But really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload twice a day, every single day in this channel, so it's a great place for the most consistent NBA content on YouTube. If you're new here, by the way, what's up? My name is Tucker. You can also leave a like rating on the videos as well, and you can check me out at various socials in a Linktree link down in the description below. With those things said, let's talk about Minnesota. So it's been, I was actually about to say it's been a rough year for Minnesota, but it's been a rough like 5+ years for Minnesota, with the exception of a little glimmer of hope of the Jimmy Butler season. But if you want to say that, then it goes all the way back to like the Kevin Garnett days. Anyway, we're here to say positive things about Minnesota. As I said, kind of throw the record out the window here. It's not like Minnesota's won 5 in a row. It's not like they've won 7 of the last 10, okay? The record still isn't great. If you could just go and look at the game log, you might think, why are we talking about these guys? They're not winning very many games. They have one of the worst records in the league. Any kind of sign of hope here for Minnesota is an important part of the evaluation process moving forward for a team that, quite frankly, does not get very many signs of hope, okay? They've been playing better, just visually, okay? Karl-Anthony Towns, playing well, showing a little bit of fight. I like to see that. No Malik Beasley over this most recent stretch, but still, they've been able to score the basketball well. D'Angelo Russell has returned over the last 10 games. Has looked good. There's some Ricky Rubio playmaking stuff in there that's just kind of that nice, steady, veteran presence. We've talked about Anthony Edwards in other videos as well, making his own push for the Rookie of the Year award. And it looks like he's probably going to win it unless LaMelo is awesome once he returns. And overall, you're starting to look at this Minnesota team as a half-competent NBA basketball team, which, with the way this season has gone to this point, is a pretty good compliment. Now, are there question marks still with this roster moving forward? Absolutely. They still aren't guarding very well, and it's going to take a while from a personnel as well as a schematic standpoint for them to be able to guard well. And quite frankly, with the trio of D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, and Karl-Anthony Towns, they might never guard well, okay? But from what you can take away from this group right now offensively, there are positive signs, okay? I think the duo of Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell has the opportunity to be a nice little part of the offense. I think Anthony Edwards is continuing to grow as a decision maker. Still has a long way to go, but the shooting numbers and things like that are up. And he certainly has plenty of opportunity here to kind of grow into the player that he's eventually going to be. And I'm not saying that this is the case right now for Anthony Edwards, but the one thing that I always kind of go back to, we've kind of seen it come to fruition now within this past couple of months for Phoenix. It's kind of weird. Why are we talking about Phoenix all of a sudden? Just give me a second. Early on in Devin Booker's career, the Suns were such a disaster in the backcourt, even going back to his rookie season, right? Where he ended up running a lot of pick and roll stuff in the first handful of years of his career that people didn't really expect him to do when he came into the league, and it really allowed him to develop as a playmaker and a facilitator in a situation that ordinarily he would not have gotten nearly as many reps at doing that in game as he ultimately got there in Phoenix. And even though there are plenty of times where this happens for young players, where they get these opportunities, they take advantage of it statistically, but it doesn't help them in the long term, even though there are plenty of examples of that, you could make the case that Anthony Edwards is more so on the Devin Booker side of that equation than he is on some of these other guys who get plenty of opportunities and end up doing absolutely nothing with it, okay? Booker is a player that was drafted and was assumed he was going to be kind of a shooting specialist type guy, and developed into something more, 1, because of his own work ethic, 2, because of his talent and abilities, and 3, because of an opportunity that he had to develop all those things in game, and Edwards is getting that opportunity right now. Now, from what I've seen, it's going to be a little bit still. There's a lot of flashes of Georgia Anthony Edwards, you know what I mean, where it's like crazy athlete, makes ridiculous plays that make you think that this guy's a future All-NBA caliber guy, and the next possession he gets tunnel vision. You know what I mean? There's a weird parallel here for me. This isn't a fantastic comparison, but I'll make the point anyway, and then we'll move on from Anthony Edwards. I used to get really frustrated with Jaylen Brown because I would watch him and be like, man, this guy's talented. He's worked on his handle just progressively through the first couple of years of his career. but he could never really flip the switch as a playmaker. He always had so much tunnel vision that like it's like he decided, I'm going to make an offensive move and I'm going to shoot. You know what I mean? It didn't matter if anybody else was open. It was frustrating. And he's worked on that and he's gotten better at that. But that's where I'm at right now with Anthony Edwards. I'm like, okay, this guy's talented and he can score, but I just wish passing out of a shot attempt was a bit bigger part of the equation on occasion for me, for Anthony Edwards. That's where I'm at. But he's clearly a talented player. And I think if nothing else out of his rookie season, he has at least proven that the talent that allowed him to be drafted first overall in that draft is there. Whether Minnesota is going to be the place to allow him to develop that in terms of a winning team culture, I have no idea. But the talent is certainly there. The guy that's really interesting for me here, right, though, is Malik Beasley, because depending on what happens with this upcoming draft pick, of course, for Minnesota, we talked about the lottery stuff a little bit earlier. You could make the case that Malik Beasley and Karl-Anthony Towns are the two guys that are absolutely going to fit no matter what. I think there's a scenario where, for example, let's say they get really lucky, they get Cade Cunningham in this draft, right? There's a scenario in which someone like D'Angelo Russell starts to get edged out a little bit, despite his relationship with Karl-Anthony Towns. Just from a basketball perspective, he starts to get edged out a little bit here. And on a similar level, Anthony Edwards, just because you have a guy that comes in Cade Cunningham that is better at the things that they're good at and has a higher ceiling than either of those two guys. And Anthony Edwards would have to start to get accustomed to being a bit more of a defender, a bit more of a do-everything guy rather than just a scorer. And I think there's a scenario in which those two guys kind of get edged out. But as it relates to Malik Beasley, given kind of the size he brings to the table, and he just has this ability to kind of float in and out of games scoring-wise, where like he can show up and get 3 buckets in a row, make a corner 3, and then just kind of be out there and hang out for a couple possessions as well. He doesn't necessarily need the ball all the time, despite the fact that he's a talented scorer. And the fact that he's like a true wing player as well, I think all those things really help his viability as a long-term option there in Minnesota. Not that Anthony Edwards wouldn't be one, and not that D'Angelo Russell wouldn't be one, but there's just a little bit more versatility there for me, and I really, really like Malik Beasley. It's crazy to look back at those Denver rosters, right? That have Jeremy Grant and Malik Beasley and Jokic, and then you can go even further back than that, Yusuf Nurkic, and you're like, man, these guys don't miss with their draft picks, you know, and Malik Beasley is another example of that, to the point where they had to start getting rid of guys like Beasley just because they weren't going to be able to pay him, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day for Minnesota, a lot of things about them moving forward are going to be determined by, obviously, the development of their younger players, but then, of course, whether or not they keep their pick this year, they give it up next year, whatever the case may be with this pick, right? And I know a lot of Minnesota fans are nervous about and constantly thinking about what's going to happen with the lottery. But there are still things you can learn about these players before this season is over. What I'm learning about Minnesota is, with their full complement of players, which we do forget, they haven't really had their full complement for a lot of the season, which is the case for a lot of different teams. With their full complement of players, there is talent here. There's certainly offensive talent here. And it's a good sign lately that they have been playing better, you know what I mean? Especially in a part of the season, and in a season in which, if they want to just wave the white flag and like not even show up on a night-to-night basis, I don't think anybody would really blame them for that. They might, you know, look down on them, but I don't think anybody would necessarily be like, hey, that doesn't make any sense. It's a tough year, you know what I mean? And again, someone in the comment section is going to say, hey, look at their record though. They haven't been playing better, just visually, okay? The results are going to be what they are. This is not necessarily a result-based situation right now in Minnesota. You're focused on the development. You're focused on the game-to-game impact that these players are having. And I'm liking what I'm seeing from Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm even liking what I'm seeing from D'Angelo Russell at times, where there's not as much volume, and he's in some of these games he's even more of like a 6-man guy as he returns from injury. And Ricky Rubio's out there running the offense, and there's some little sprinkles of some stuff that I actually really like. And of course, the talent of Edwards. Unfortunately, Beasley has not been playing over the stretch, and hopefully he comes back fully healthy and everything moving forward. But keep an eye on Minnesota. If you have a night where you're pulling up League Pass, right, and you're like, man, I don't know what I want to watch. All these games are weird. Throw a Minnesota game on one time, you know what I mean? And see if you're seeing what I'm seeing. See if you're seeing a team that is starting to figure it out just a little bit, and see if we're on the same page. Now, it's possible that this is just a Team Josh Jackson effect type thing, where it's later in the year and they're playing teams that aren't playing, you know, their full complement of guys, and it's smoke and mirrors and it's fool's gold. That's possible. I'm willing to admit that. But just from where I'm sitting, I think Minnesota might be developing into something at least half interesting, and we'll keep an eye on them moving forward. And you know, it's always going to be a tough West, but maybe they can start moving up in this thing and see what they do with their pick this offseason, things like that. All I'm saying is signs of hope in Minnesota, and I wanted to give them a shout out for that, because it's not all doom and gloom. There are some positive things happening there, and those deserve to be recognized in what has been a very, very odd season to this point. But yeah, that is going to be the end of the second video of the day, and I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. You can also check out a Linktree link down in the description below to hang out with me outside of these videos at various socials. You can leave a like rating on this video as well if you enjoyed it. Like I said, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.